There you go.
I see that. I went to the conference center and no. It's not bad. There's a small. It's cozy.
Megan, let's maybe wait another minute or so.
Okay, yes, just let me know when you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We met several years ago. My name is Katrina Rice Krause, when we were working on the IRA rental assistance program. Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha.
Good to see you.
I knew you weren't Tom Cruise.
Thank
You
you
were
so
pretty
much.
sure. And I should be able to, I think it'll be.
Yeah. So still at IHCD, that's.
Because we do social media posts all about PBA, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
And I deal today, but I have to leave right after I.
Okay.
You see all of our new, did you see the entrance?
We took a,
With all of it up?
Yeah, okay. And Representative Claire, I'm a big, CEO of Co-Action, so we chatted today. But I'm a big social media poster, so if you want any, you know, well, you can take stuff first, but I do. Okay, I know the board agenda and stuff, I really have to leave right after I talk. Yeah, you guys can
Oh.
handle it, even if you're
You
tall.
know, I get my hair done by, it's the worst hair day ever.
The lighting's gonna be terrible, but just go. Perfect. If only we wrote something. That was
I
perfect.
know,
We
we
actually
should've. We should have jumped in front of the.
Yeah, you would. Actually, you should. Don't waste a good picture. Kelly, go for it, or do you have to get ready? I'll go for it, okay.
This one I
All right.
So you didn't know, we just get that. We're just like, all right, tell me where to go.
I was already in one, so I'm good.
You know what? We're gonna have to,
Now what?
Yeah.
we gotta separate. I got that.
Here, I'll go down.
Your
Yeah.
connection a little faster.
That's much better.
I
There
should
you
probably
go.
go get my, how much time do I have left?
That's all of this.
So good.
I have 1 hour and 31 minutes. I should go get my
Okay,
cord
Erin,
too.
thank you.
Probably.
Okay.
Hey.
Do that once. Huh?
Sorry.
I get down the side.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gonna see if
You need to do that, or is it working? All of the other day, mine is easy. That just transmits to the-
there you go. Right, we're good.
Thank you. All right, Megan. Think you're on mute.
You ready? Hello, we all set?
Yeah, can you hear her?
I think they're ready for you, Megan. I know we can hear you online, so can the room hear her okay?
Well, now my. What am I?
Do you want to try the puck? Or maybe that's her.
It might be her, because it looks like
That's
you're
on her.
tethered, yeah.
Okay.
My husband called me and then just kicked me off of here.
We can't hear you, Megan.
I think that's
So you
the
have low bandwidth.
I think that's the room because
Now it says
I can hear
unstable.
Megan just fine on my end. I can hear Megan just fine on my end.
Oh,
Oh, here we go. Okay.
okay.
So with you.
Well, but Rebecca's on the same network we are. She's here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I just
They left.
I just might be in a I might just have a better spot in as far as the bandwidth. As far as the bandwidth.
Okay.
I use this room all the time. I've never encountered this, so I don't know.
Do you wanna try the puck?
Aren't you tethered?
I am.
Yeah, I mean, you're not even using Wi-Fi. You should be strong.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. And do,
Well, we still can't hear you in the room.
Megan, how's your
So,
signal on
As
your
he's
end?
back.
Can you help us here? We don't know what, it says unstable connection, but
Is anyone in the room also connected to Zoom?
I am on Wi-Fi.
Okay, is your microphone muted?
It's giving low bandwidth.
It's
and
unstable.
network
which
connection
doesn't make
errors.
any sense.
Jen, this is Rebecca. If it would help at all, I'm happy to run your slides. I know we have a copy. I'm happy to run your slides if that would help take a little bit of the network issues off.
Can you hear us now?
We can hear you.
Rebecca seems to be like, Megan, can you hear us?
But can you hear us is the question.
can you hear me?
So
I can hear you all.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah. Yes,
Okay.
we got you.
We got it. Love it.
Yeah.
that looks like it's on her end.
I think it's her. I don't think it's us.
Really?
Megan, do you have an alternate connection?
Yes.
Can you switch to the hotspot on your phone, for example, rather than your Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I changed my Wi.
Or turn off the camera.
Sometimes I just turn the
Turning off the
video
camera.
on.
Well, I apologize. Is that better?
If she has a hotspot she could use on her phone, that might be better than
I can do that.
Wi-Fi if she's in a bad Wi-Fi location.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? Is
Yes.
that better?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
A little, there's a lag, I guess.
But we can, just go ahead and get started. And we can just go ahead and get started and go forward with. Oh,
Yeah,
Alexa.
Megan, we can't really hear you. Do you want to try and turn your camera off?
Apparently YouTube is functioning very well.
Okay, so.
Can you hear me now?
I
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I apologize. This is crazy. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with elections. Do we have a quorum?
We do not.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. We'll just go ahead and get started with about housing.
I think that's
My, okay. Great. I will
share again. How many people streamed in though than what was in the, I can't see, I'm assuming there's more people there.
Not more, but they're different.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me some time to talk with everyone today. I'm Jen Trowbridge. I'm the president and CEO of CoAction. CoAction is more than an area agency on aging. So you'll see that as I get a chance to share our programs and some data with you on some of the housing needs. I'll try to be pretty intentional with also bringing in an older adult side of the information that we captured. This is a little bit of a refresher for some folks. So if you have new questions after this chat with you, happy to answer those too. Overall, I'll take the next 15 minutes or so, maybe 20, just to go through a little bit broader impact what we do at CoAction. I think that's important. While we are unique in the spectrum of services we offer, there are other area agencies on aging that offer a multitude of programs, and they really function in a high capacity operational space and run their agencies to serve many, many people in various ways so that they can age well in their communities. And then there are different housing supports. I think it's important to know that. Happy to have Representative Claire here in person, and any future or current legislators that watch this. I think it's really important and a great way to beeline in some of the housing needs, at least in Northwest Indiana, which really do kind of seep statewide too. We're a for-purpose organization. There's 4 big buckets that really tie us together. We're helping people with financial stability, obviously housing, nutrition, not just on the aging and congregate meals, if you will, but nutrition with WIC programs and pregnant moms and young children. And then the whole spectrum of services under the older adults and persons with disabilities that we help manage. When I tell people what we do though, I try to use words they can understand. We mitigate poverty. We help our older adults and people with disabilities age well in their homes so that they can stay in their homes and in their communities. We do prevent and we resolve homelessness, and we improve infant mortality rates and provide nutrition support for pregnant women and young children. That's just what we do. We do that every day. Our vision is that the people in our communities can thrive regardless of income, ability, or age, and these services help do that. We do not do it all. So we have a lot of friends and a lot of subcontractors out there that help us.
Are you designated as a community action agency as well?
We are.
I thought so.
So this kind of trio, really, it's a foursome, if you will, but the expertise, the funding, and the programming that is focused on aging and nutrition absolutely overlaps with housing stability, absolutely overlaps with low income and nutrition, and of course those overlap with aging. So all of that is intertwined, and we get a really unique perspective. But I also think this is a great way for us to champion our voice and share the knowledge that we have. These are the distinctions that we have, Representative Claire. So the Area Agency on Aging, a Community Action Agency, the WIC entity, and then the big one that we'll spend the rest of the time talking about is the Community Housing Development piece, known as a CHODO. CHODO.
So I told my days.
We had a CHODO in New Albany.
You do?
We did.
Oh, you did?
It did not end well.
Oh, no. There's a couple, and in our region, we only have a few. Habitat, a lot of people are familiar with that name, Habitat. Habitat's a CHODO. A few other area agencies on aging can be CHODOs. They don't necessarily have to be community action. So there's a different blend and combo you can get, but it's pretty synergistic.
Yeah, well, we have Habitat, but we had a CHODO that was marketed specifically as a standalone CHODO, and that's what did not end well.
It is difficult, and I'll dive a little on that only because CHODOs can be asset rich and cash poor, and it is a long game. And so a few years ago, CoAction knew we had to blossom our housing supports. We were doing the housing voucher program, which is what you see here, and we knew there was success in that, but we needed to do more. There was a local CHODO who was very successful, but knew the future would be bigger and they could do more if they partnered. And so We merged in one organization several years ago. It has been fantastic. We're seeing great results from that. It's a beautiful merger. So the vouchers that we have, you might be familiar, a lot of people hear Section 8's housing voucher program. We serve just around 800 to 900 people on a voucher today because big cities have their own housing authorities. Think of, you know, in my region, you've got East Chicago, Gary, Hammond, the common cities you're familiar with. They have their own housing authorities that manage their own vouchers. What about all those other cities? What about all those other areas? So Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority finds these entities to manage these housing vouchers. So we've been managing these housing vouchers for years. Out of the active vouchers we have today, which is again between 800 and 900, 202 are owned by someone 60 plus. They're not really owned, you have them while you're eligible, but 202 people hold those. There's 198 people who aren't the voucher owners of that, but they live with someone who is. So truly, even our voucher program is very heavy and touched significantly by people 60 plus. The vouchers are very good, they're helpful, but as funding has changed too, they've turned on, turned off, meaning we can tell people you are slotted for a voucher, let's find you a landlord, let's get you going, and then we might have to retract it because something's happened. And that's just because of the vulnerability of space in the last year or so. The new program that we are doing is on our housing diversion program. Many of the funding mechanisms designed with good intent, but they are trying to target people in absolute crisis. And what we've learned with our expertise and years doing this is there's quite a few people who are not yet in crisis, but really need help. And we've had to turn them away. We don't have any programs designated for them. So we said, okay, forget this. We need to find some funding and we need to launch something and we need to determine the effectiveness of this and get this going. So last year, we really started the program in December. It took us several months to build and create. And we have worked with between 80 and 90 families since then who were those people we would have turned away, but now we are not. We are seeing families reach stability. Stability means 6 months of stability, then you reach stability. We are finding that it costs us $1,600 a family in this diversion program, $4,000 a family when they actually have a homelessness episode. So if we can reach people in this diversion sweet spot, it is economically better for all. It is a better, less traumatic experience for all. And the number one indicator for a homelessness experience is having had one. So if you can prevent the first one, you can prevent perhaps any from happening. The other thing that we manage is called the coordinated entry list. This is the state's best effort of trying to capture how many people are living in an uninhabitable space. It could be a home that doesn't have any of the components working that should. It could be in a hotel paid for by an agency, a car, and of course outside and in a tent. And so anyone who's living in those kind of spaces, they qualify for being added to this list. How do they get on it? There are drops throughout the entire state of people who are trained on accessing this coordinated entry list. And once someone, usually in our space, somewhere in social services, learns someone's having a homeless episode or an uninhabitable space experience, they know who to go to and they get them on this list. And why? There are housing solutions for people here. This is a really critical list. These are people that are probably the most critical, obviously, for housing stability. So there are funds and programs targeted to help them. And so we draw off this list. So it's really important that we have this. We're grateful for it. It's the best thing that we have so far. But the other thing that we do, and this is a really great way to outreach and to get some information out, is we go and actually walk the streets and talk to people and try to capture who is living in these situations. There is no great way to do it. This goes back to we're doing it this way because we don't have a better way. So one day a year, the state chooses and it's Indiana Housing Community Development Authority chooses. Thank you for choosing the super duper coldest day in January, but we appreciate it.
HUD dictates that it's in the cold period of January. We choose a date out of a week.
I do at the very end, so I don't know what the forecast is, but it's always really cold. There's intent. So if people are cold, they're gonna more likely be in a warming shelter or being in a shelter, and it's easier to find people when they're in, four walls. So the way this is put on though, it's all volunteer driven. I mean, it is a big deal. We have 92 counties, not all have volunteers, but many do. The volunteers are trained to capture specific information. If they do not capture the specific information correctly, it can't count towards this volume of people. And so what happens is this is the best guess, the minimum, if you will, of people who are experiencing homelessness one day in January. And we use this data to help with HUD funding. We use it in grants when we're trying to secure opportunities. We use it for the next housing project we build. There's a whole lot of value. So we know this is the minimum. We know that in 2024, we had 3,400 households. We know in 2025, we had 3,700 households. But again, that's the minimum. We know there are more than that. So we can use that as a baseline, if you will. This doesn't mean that we have a growing problem. There are many elements that contribute to this. Like I said, if you have a high volunteer year, you're gonna have more people you talk to. If you had better trained volunteers, their paperwork most likely went through, so it's gonna be higher too. But it also could be that the housing crisis is getting squeezed a little deeper and it's creating some more challenges. We don't know that.
Those are statewide numbers.
Statewide. This is also a statewide slide. It is broken down by region. It's very detailed, what I just shared with you, so you can look at in your community space. But again, beelining for an age range, the purple is your 55 plus, the pink is your 65 plus. That bottom bar are people truly unsheltered. So these are people living in outside elements. And I believe does car count as unsheltered?
I believe so.
I think it's car and outside. And so you can see that on January 29th of last year, 62 people were over the age of 65 living in their car or living outside. Minimally.
We know even with the increase that it still dramatically undercounts the population.
Correct.
Do you have any sense of that?
We do not. And actually, Katrina's a great resource. She's with IHCDA. Her and I just talked a few hours ago and we don't.
There's no modeling or anything that's been done.
I'm sure there is at the HUD level, but we've not found a way to reliably find how many based on the point in time to extrapolate that effectively.
Yeah.
Particularly, again, when there are counties that are wholesale uncounted.
It is common for agencies like ours to also provide rental assistance. And rental assistance can fluctuate based on funding. There's some TANF funding that just ended. So there's some things that will be rescinded from that. I've been doing this for 4 years with this agency. I've seen things turn on and turn off, right? And so we kind of expect it in one side, but we also know this is why it's so important to really build a strong financial portfolio. Every agency really is sophisticated in doing that and trying to make sure that, yes, while we have grants, that we really count on those grants to ignite a program. Most of those grants will not fund what we need. They don't fund the technology enhancements. They don't fund all the volunteer programs. They don't fund any of this that I'm putting up, right? And so we know that these agencies have to have some other supports. COAction, we have invested quite a bit in community engagement, donor relations. We have game nights. We do a whole lot to attract people. There are quite a few compassionate people statewide, regardless of your political affiliation. There are compassionate people who understand some have less and some have more, and there are people that have more who can give, and they make big contributions. So, and I don't mean big dollars. small contributions go very big ways when we're dealing with people that have a financial hardship or aging population. Most agencies like us really have the ability to turn $1 into $3 and do some really creative funding. So it's really important that we have that. But actually, before I go there too, Representative Claire, to share with you and others that didn't hear this earlier, the diversion program that I mentioned that's preventative, we do not do any rental assistance with that. So we have been getting quite a few referrals the more this is becoming aware for people to send referrals our way. People for years have been saying, nope, we can't help you. You're not in crisis yet. So now they're learning, wait, there are some options. And there are pockets of diversion programs in the state of Indiana for sure. We're just really happy to launch that in the Northwest region. And what we find is people get referred to us and there's a percentage, that maybe 25% or so that will say, well, actually, I really just need financial help. I just don't have ends to meet. This is all I need. And then they leave because that's not what we're going to give them. So those that stay, these outcomes are looking really good because they're just passionate about being stable and not having that kind of toxic stress and able to move on with their lives with stable housing. So that's cool. The other thing that we do, which is very powerful, absolutely effective, is we build housing. And as you mentioned, the Chodos in your area, this is the second building of a 2-apartment building and a common building project that we did in Portage, Indiana. It's more than 50 units. Most of those units are just for people who need housing that they can afford with their working wages. Several of those, though, are for people who are living in uninhabitable spaces and now got a home. I happened to be on site the day that we were bringing people in who were living outside and they were getting keys. They didn't even know they were getting keys. So they were coming in thinking they were filling out paperwork. And this was 2 weeks before Christmas, so give me that time frame. They came in, they thought they were doing paperwork. You could visibly tell these are people who had a lot of experience living outside. And then our team was walking them to their apartment, handing the key and giving them their space to have their moment and get settled. That is just the beginning. When you do housing projects for people who are living in uninhabitable spaces, you have to provide wraparound supports. That first year is incredibly critical. You want agencies like area agencies on aging, community action agencies. You need their expertise involved in working with people with trauma, toxic stress, to get them into comfort with a safe, stable place. Once you provide the roof and the walls, then you can work on addictions and mental health. But without food and without housing, you absolutely cannot get people to a place to better themselves. Our human nature is built for food and housing first, and then those things follow. So your agencies that are trained in that will do a really good job for outcomes. And IHCDA has recognized us in some of those outcomes, so thank you. And others in the state done a really good job with that. These are the 4 overarching barriers to services. Nothing should be new here for everybody that is on this meeting today. We know transportation is a challenge, and with technology, I feel like there are solutions where people shouldn't have to have transportation to get the services they need. That's a personal Jen Trowbridge opinion, but I think we could do it. Documentation is always a big part of our supports that we have to help people with. We know we need housing stock in every lane. We need it for people with 0 income, and we need it for people who can afford $1 million house. We need it in all realms. And if we build it correctly and have a good statewide housing strategy and a city housing strategy, I think Indiana could be really successful. I hope that that also blossoms for us. There are some funding components that are really critical. Your community action agencies are a big fuel for many of the things that help your communities thrive. And that's because a lot of our aging population, at least the ones that we're seeing the most, have very restrictive incomes. And your community action agencies are great partners to help leverage that since they have a lot of work in financial assistance as well. So some of the big things that didn't make it federally to the initial rollout, but are showing promise in the House and the Senate in what they have put in their budgets give me hope and continued confidence. We've got some great congressmen that are fighting for those spots, so really happy to have them on board getting those efforts. And then just making sure, and I think our ask is always that if you are engaged at the state level and state level decisions in housing, you need to reach out to multitudes of people. I understand that, developers, city needs, but please think of your community housing development organizations, your community actions, and of course, area agencies on aging, because we are having the housing conversation every day. All of our teams are. And then I will end with great opportunities, because at CoAction, we really do like to see action come out. And so choice is a really important funding, just as our homeless diversion program is an investment. It is a spend to save model. If you spend the money to help families when they need it, not when they're absolute desperate, you spend less. And so it's better all around. Choice functions in a similar manner. Choice is a Medicaid diversion. It delays even Medicaid dependency. So making sure that choice is in the budget, we know there's some slight decrease there, but it has been very impactful for families. That PIT count I talked about, that point in time count, the world needs more volunteers for that. Apparently it's nationwide, so not the world. The United States needs more volunteers for that. Indiana in particular, since we don't have all 92 counties represented. If you have capital and you can buy homes, or you have a home and you are willing to rent it, Housing Choice Voucher is a wonderful program. Your rent is paid to you every month on time. And many, many, many tenants, more tenants than not, are wonderful people, grateful for the home that you provide, love the voucher program, don't ever want to leave it. Most have waited years to get it, so they are pretty good renters. And then, of course, just making sure that you're looking at things holistically. So we are grateful for all the support that we get. While we're not a state agency or a government agency by design, we are our own for-purpose organization. We rely heavily on our state decision makers to keep things flowing so we can be strong advocates for our community and make things happen. So happy to take any questions.
You said you have about 900 housing vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
And how many counties does that cover?
Our voucher program is in 4. And then we have our property managed. We property manage about 260 units. We are waiting to add another 35. We're waiting to a couple more months to learn if we have another project for us. And that one would then serve 3 counties. We would love to do even more housing projects. We like those a lot.
So in the 4 counties you serve, there's also site-based public housing through the municipalities?
Just like 4 cities. It really is for us. 4 cities out of 4 counties have their own housing authority.
Right, but they have both site-based housing and housing choice vouchers?
They do like, yes,
their own, right?
yes, yeah, some projects, that were like, yeah.
So do you overlap with any of them, or do you keep your vouchers separate for the areas that aren't served by a municipality?
We actually have some agreements between them. Gary's a big one that I know of. The team knows even more than I do, but I am confident on the Gary side because their demand can be high and our need for rentals can be high. And so we've realized that when we partner together, we can get people housed faster. So we have agreements that we can kind of go beyond the borders, but we're still managing those people on our vouchers.
How long has your diversion program been in place?
December of last year.
Just December of last year?
I think we have, it could be more. I'm going to give you a low number because I'd rather do that. I know we have 6 successful families because it's determined out of 6 months of stability.
Right.
But
you're just now starting to collect longitudinal data on the long-term success of those families and individuals.
Yeah.
It's an exciting program though.
I know. So we have various funding sources for it now, and that will continue for a little while, but at some point, if it doesn't naturally happen with us in our asks that we have done, we're going to have to do some really strong advocacy with the data and try to get that funded.
What are your current funding sources?
TANF was part of it. There was some CSVG funding that went into that too. That's Community Service Block Grant, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Different from CDBG.
Yeah, we don't.
CSBG, you don't get any CDBG money.
No.
Yeah. But you have entitlement communities that do.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Yes, I don't know all, like the food bank's the big CDBG, but I don't know all of them.
Right. But your funding streams to support the diversion program are limited and finite.
For now, yes.
Yeah. So how do you see that developing?
Well, we just got an ask from another entity in our area who had some extra like home funds that were in the several hundreds of thousands of dollars that said, hey, can you use these? So sometimes we get some of those asks that we're still at now, but I can't tell you what's gonna happen in the next 12 months.
Extra home funds?
I'm guessing that's not IHCDA home funds.
That was my question. Yeah.
No.
We do
What's
have
going on?
home funds, but there are direct recipients as well.
And this one was for one particular city too, so we'd have to like beeline for that city, but yeah.
Is there ICTA funding as a possibility?
What does that stand for?
IHCDA.
Oh.
Housing Community
Do you
Development.
guys call it ICTA?
No.
Okay.
But I've heard it from a few.
Sorry, just because I really get excited to use short acronyms.
I've called it ICTA throughout my
okay.
entire legislative service, so
I think I
I've
have
only
too.
heard it from SIU.
Yeah,
so-
see.
I've always.
there's some other ICTA people here.
Yeah.
You got to adopt it. Deb.
I've never heard it, makes you feel better.
Okay, that's fine. We will be advocating Representative Flair for various pockets that make sense. And the team that has been doing this, they've been doing this for years. This is part of the organization that we merged with. So for years, they were doing a lot in the crisis space. And so they're pretty savvy with different pockets of what we can ask for. I'm not sure what those are.
Yeah. So you say you've served 6 families through that program?
No, we're on 80 to 90.
Oh, what was
referrals.
the 6 that you?
They are successful. They have
Oh,
reached
6
6
that
months
have
of
completed.
sustainability.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Gotcha. But you're serving 80 to 90.
We've had 80 to 90 referrals. I think we have 25% of those were folks that dropped off within a short time frame of the referral if they weren't going to get a financial stipend or rental assistance from that. So we have a really good active group, I would say 50 to 60 active today.
To what extent do you find that there are regulatory barriers, whether it's regulations regarding different funding sources or other regulation that limits your ability to do programming or to knit together different
That's real.
programs?
That's real. There are some regulations that hinder us. I wouldn't say it's necessarily between funding sources. What I'm thinking of is like, let's take recidivism, for example. So if someone can only be like in the jail system for 90 days, they had to be like homeless going in, be in the jail system for 90 days, exiting, and then we could respond. But if you were in jail for more than 90 days, now we can't help you. But it didn't change the fact that you went in without housing stability or coming out without housing stability, right? So some of those, there's little ribbons of those kind of hurdles in many of the things that we do that the teams are very expert on capturing. The only thing for us that that helps our funding is discretion. We are good stewards of every dollar we get. I've worked in for-profits and now for-purpose organizations. I'm returning to them. And I forgot coming back into it how gritty and creative and solution-oriented you can be in the for-purpose space of trying to make the dollar work and make it have the results that you need. And so there are lots of solutions for these teams to kind of figure out what we can move around. But as soon as that funding becomes restrictive and you can only use this for this and that for that, you absolutely hinder the potential of how sophisticated and impactful agencies can be. I know we have to do it. I'm just sharing the other side so we can figure out the right solution. So
more funding flexibility.
yes,
Would help.
hold people to outcomes, give us full flexibility to do that.
But when we limit ourselves with guardrails and then expect big outcomes, it's a very unreasonable space to be in, personally.
How does that dovetail with, I don't know what the official ICTA or IHCDA philosophy or position is now, because we've had some changes in leadership, but you know, this goes back a ways, probably what, 10 plus years. ICTA shifted to a model where I don't remember what the name for it was, but they wanted to have organizations and communities bring projects and then let ICTA figure out how to put together the funding. Do you remember what I'm talking about? There was a name for it. It was a shift, because it used to be that like Jen's organization would come apply for specific money. They'd come say, we want home funds. But there was a shift, and again, I wish I could remember the name for it, where ICTA said, come to us with a project or an idea, and we'll figure out what funding sources would match that. Does that ring a bell?
Are you talking about the qualified allocation plan?
That doesn't ring a bell.
The QAP, okay. Because so far as I'm aware, and I've worked with our real estate side a lot in the last few years, we did seemingly shift back to, based on that information, letting the organizations apply for the programs that they see fit. We have tried to streamline some of that, so that if you're applying for LIHTC, but you also want development fund and housing trust fund and home funds, you can do that in one unified application. So we are trying to ease that burden, and we do have our scoring criteria posted with the QAP that does give some amount of benefit to these types of initiatives.
Is there anybody else besides Jen's organization that's doing a similar diversion program?
Off the top of my head, no, but I would not be surprised at all if there were other organizations doing it. CSVG funding is much closer to what I think Jen would like to see for a lot more of the funding sources, which is we'll give you a pot of money to make an impact on poverty. You tell us what you did. So there's a very good chance that more of our community action agencies are doing that.
Right.
And that is highly regulated. Matter of fact, we have a whole extra monitoring. Our entire agency is monitored because of this pot of money we get for community service block grant. It's less than $1 million to give you some volume of that, but CoAction is a $35 to $40 million organization. Our entire organization gets monitored for that under $1 million pot. And that's part of the flexibility. It allows it to be divided out to leverage and ignite these other programs that drive the impact for us. So it's something we're willing to undergo.
But additionally, CoAction deserves to be recognized for the fact that their board does abide by several different designation requirements, and those designation requirements often are not intuitively able to be aggregated together. So the CHODO does have a set of board requirements for that, and then CSVG has a separate set. So they are really finding initiative and finding good ways to make all of it work together in spite of a lot of different red tape.
So
some of it necessary, sorry.
No, when you say monitoring, you're talking about compliance.
Yes, so we have a 2-day compliance, on-site compliance. You have to prep for it. It's a 3-year look back period to make sure all of these things have happened. It's fantastic business, components to it of how you should be leading, what you should be tracking, what you should be looking at. Some of it is very heavy though and prescriptive. So we would love to see some of that toned down a little bit, but thank you. But the federal requirement, right? There's federal and there's state. And in the end, we all want the same thing. We want high quality results. This money matters, right? So we just need to make sure that it's driving what it should be.
How much do you think your annual compliance cost is related to that monitoring?
Yeah, there is another leader who actually figured that out.
I was going to say, I've got a quoted number.
Yeah.
I have heard that several of the community action agencies are spending 20 to 30% of their grant on compliance measures for CSVG.
So out of $1 million.
And again, they're one of the larger grant recipients.
Right, out of $1 million, you might be spending, under that scenario, you might be spending $200,000 to $300,000 a year on compliance.
Well, I think it depends how you look at it, because some of the practices in that monitoring are best business practices. So there's some things you're gonna invest in as an agency because you need compliance anyway. I think that'd be the only piece that I would extract from that. There are some necessary components just to run a high quality agency. So does it cost the agency a couple $100,000 for everything that we do to make sure that we are hitting high standards? Absolutely. And there definitely is a cost with CSBG.
But there still may be opportunities to reduce compliance costs by focusing more on outcomes rather than other compliance or monitoring metrics.
Yeah. Yes.
So bring it back to choice, because this is the choice board.
Yeah.
So talk about how the choice program is working with all of your housing components now, and maybe how you see or what opportunities you see with the new legislation and what Erin and her team are working on and all that.
Well, the parts that I know, and I'm gonna phone a friend to come in and join that conversation too, and by friend, I mean all of you three.
She reaches
all of
out.
you three.
We have lots of friends.
So from the perspective for us, I know there are some challenges with making sure we use choice funding. And I asked earlier too about what we're spending. And sometimes there's some difficult pieces for us to maximize the spend because you can't easily reallocate the dollars, I guess, across to different people or different agencies, or we're trying to predict what we're gonna spend and not try to overspend where you have to stop someone during the calendar year who's getting services because you run out of money. That's a really bigger hardship for families, I think, because then they rely on that. Like someone's actually taking care of my dad, he's getting the meals he needs. And now all of a sudden, if we have to stop that and they have nothing for 8 weeks, what do they do, right? That's a challenge. I think the increase in the home component, especially the physical home component, home mods is a big thing for, it's a big safety thing. And again, we go back to preventative. And when you prevent, then, right, everybody's elevated. And it's not just the expense, it's not just the physical, but it's all the other things that spiral.
Yeah.
But how do you prove the negative? And I go back, that's always the challenge for us. How do you prove what didn't happen? We all wash our hands. We all know we need to wash our hands. We know it has prevented us from getting sick, but how many times a year did it prevent you from getting sick? You don't know. And so that's the big difficult part is when we say, hey, we're gonna spend money to prevent things from happening, people get really uncertain because how do you prove the data of what didn't happen? And we have to be smarter than that because we do know better. How do we do that? I don't have that answer, but collectively, maybe there is one.
Well, home modification was one of the things I was hoping you'd talk about, so thank you.
Yeah.
And I think, we've all talked about what great opportunities there are, right? Area of home modification, and I just think that as you're talking about housing, home modification through choice should be a bigger part of that conversation, right, Erin?
And currently, a very small percentage of the choice funding goes towards home mod and handy chore.
And I think if I recall, it is because of the process it took to get people to be eligible to use the choice funds. And so you have construction crews, you have small entities, you have these guys who are like, I could do a ramp, I could do a bar, I got you. And then when they learned what they had to do in order to earn this funding, it was a turnoff. And so it became difficult. So I think those became eased.
What
and that was
drove
a
up
big
the
win.
expense?
Also, yes,
Yeah, that was
absolutely.
the biggest piece
Yeah.
because of the lack of
Yeah.
participating contractors. And maybe Erin can speak to this because I know the last time we met, there were some things you were trying to figure out as far as how to really open up the use of that money for home modification. I think even though we decoupled home modification, pest control, and other services, you said there were still some quirks you were going to have to.
There's still administrative code that dictates what the requirements,
So-
but we have, and we'll soon be rolling out a new process for those providers to apply through the AAAs through us for us to certify them, where we kind of will have samples of the very minimum requirements for policies that are required to try to ease some of that burden.
Yeah, we talked about having a boilerplate packet that basically the
yes.
AAA could just fill in the name of the contractor, right? put it through the process? I mean, are we still looking at something that easy?
We have to do, yes, sample policies. We're working on some final tweaks with our Office of General Counsel on those, but that's where we're headed. So hopefully that will open up the pool of potential providers.
Well, yeah, I think it should, without spending a much larger percentage of the choice dollars on home modification, it should allow many more home modifications to be completed, because as you are able to go out with co-action to your contractor community and have suddenly 10 contractors who are willing to build a ramp rather than 1 or 2, it should drive that cost down so that the $10,000 ramp becomes a $4,000 ramp, or the $15,000 ramp becomes a $6,000 ramp, hopefully less. I've talked a lot in prior meetings about the RSVP program in my community that has a team that builds ramps. They just haven't been able to do it for lifespan because they weren't certified, Medicaid certified. So now, once Erin works her magic, they're going to be able to build ramps with volunteer labor for hopefully using choice funds only for the cost of materials. And I think there are going to be opportunities to get even partial donation of materials in some cases, because we have some very generous companies in our area that I think maybe even just buying materials at cost or whatever. So then the $10,000 ramp becomes an $800 ramp.
That's wonderful. That's
So-
and that's the synergy that we talk about. So
Right.
in order for any agency like ours to make it, you're building relationships everywhere, finding the compassionate people, and then figuring out where you can go, where you're spending less and doing more. And it's sweat equity in everything that you do, but.
Right, but I think there's an opportunity to use volunteer labor and to have a lot more competition among paid contractors, to do home modifications, not just including ramps, but washer and dryer relocation, grab bars, and shelving in kitchens, and all the things that these guys are sick of hearing me talk about.
Our aging population, we've got people who called us because their hallway is so dark, they can't change the light bulb.
Right.
Who do you call? It's simple as that, but when you don't have any family or friends nearby, and you don't have the physical ability to do those things, literally, how do you do it? What do you do?
Right.
You call your AAA and you talk to somebody who figures it out and makes it work, but please don't call your AAA for light bulb changes.
Well, but maybe call your AAA for light bulb changes. Well, because I think under this new model, I don't want people calling their AAA for a light bulb change if they have somebody else to do it. But I also don't want somebody to suffer a fall for lack of a light bulb being changed. And I think, I'll say again, once Erin works her magic and we get all this figured out from the state side, I would hope that you would have contractors in your area who you could have on a list, and when somebody needs something, a choice client, somebody who's already on choice, that that could be folded into their existing services at a reasonable cost. And they, if there really is a need, again, not talking about situations where there's a reasonable alternative, where there's an adult child who's willing to come change the light bulb or whatever, but when you have somebody living alone who doesn't have anybody to change the light bulb, I would hope that part of this new competition scenario will allow you to have a list of contractors, so you've got somebody on the list who will go change the light bulb for $50, if that's what it takes. And hopefully, light bulb is kind of an outlier example, but I think there are those, it's like, what do we call it, handy chore?
Handyman.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing, right? But
Handy person.
to be able to have, I think the service has been called handy chore.
Handy chore.
Yeah. So to be able to have competition in your area and have contractors who are willing to perform those services at a reasonable cost could be transformative.
And we can do that through the right marketing. It's the same thing too. In the housing space, it's about igniting the landlords as another way to solutions. When we get this going too, it's igniting contractors in a way of saying you're always in between jobs, or your jobs always fluctuate. And while you got downtime and your crew goes from 3 to 2, pull one guy out and help us do some grab bars, right? Like it's just, but finding
Yeah.
a mechanism for that, I think would be really
No, that's
helpful.
exactly
We
what
see
I'm
those
envisioning.
visions happening. But again,
Yeah.
we've gotta invest in the right marketing and the messaging, and I think we'll learn from each other as communities get this going. It'll be really good.
Yeah, no, the term I would use is like fill-in work.
Yeah.
You know, where you have a
Yeah.
contract, you're able to work with contractors who, you know, have a framing crew that finishes the framing job a day early and there's nothing to frame today, so either tell the guys there's no work, or I've got this list from Jen's agency that's got 5 people who need grab bars installed, so let's go knock out 2 of them with the crew. I mean, that's where I think we can go with this, and it's really exciting. So I just really appreciate your presentation, and I'm excited about all the things that you're doing.
Well, thank
You're
you.
doing a lot of
Thank
good
you for
work.
your advocacy on this.
Absolutely. Yeah, housing is, as we all know, a very difficult policy area these days. We get all the slides, by the way.
Yeah,
I'll send them.
Send
Karen
those
has
to
them.
Yes.
Erin and Julie.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's a really good presentation, thank you. Very interesting.
Wonderful. That was well needed. Thank you so much. Okay, and should we now move on to our updates, our choice updates with Erin?
Yes. And I'm going to talk in a slightly different order than is on the agenda. It looks like we have about 30 minutes left, so I will try and get through everything and make sure Hannah has time to. Wanted to start by recognizing Dr. Burke, who is on vacation now. We had the 2025 Golden Hoosier Awards last week, and Dr. Burke was nominated for her outstanding volunteerism by Chuck Liddell at Area 5 Agency on Aging, and she was one of the 12 selected winners for this year. So we got to celebrate her and all of the other recipients last week. So it was a nice celebration and recognition for all of her efforts. So I wanted to recognize her for that. And shortly after the last Choice Board meeting in July, we shared that the Division of Aging and Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services were merging into the now known as Division of Disability, Aging and Rehabilitative Services. And with that merger, the Division of Aging is becoming a bureau of the DDARS, known as the Bureau of Better Aging. At this point, this is an operational change, and we are pursuing legislative changes in the upcoming legislative session next January. As we've been working on this transition, we have within the Bureau of Better Aging, Division of Aging, completed a really detailed analysis of the business unit structure as we're really working towards streamlining our efficiency and effectiveness and our supports both to our internal and external stakeholders. We've come up with a strategic plan that we are working towards. There's 11 different action areas. The majority of the action areas that we're starting with really relate to our internal processes and structure and support, and kind of with all of the transitions that the division or the bureau has experienced over the last couple of years, and really the network as a whole, just making sure we are designed in a way to be as strong as we can be to really support our partners and collaborate with our internal and external agencies. We've done a detailed review of all of our policies and procedures and have a long list of areas that we are going to prioritize, because we know that in order to be consistent and be clear, we need to make sure that we are all on the same page. So we're working on that. And then the next slide highlights our new structure. We will be focused on quality and outcomes, program and policy, and provider and vendor relations. And the quality and outcomes and the provider and vendor relations will be really working in support of kind of our core programs that we administer. We are in the process of redoing some job descriptions. The starred positions are positions that don't exist currently or that we need to fill. Vanessa Conbard will serve as our Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives and will be leading the charge on the multi-sector plan on aging, our Age Forward Indiana initiative. We are hopefully very, very, very soon going to be posting a Deputy Chief of Staff role as well as 2 other director level roles, one focused on quality and outcomes and one on program and policy. And we're really hoping to get that core leadership team in place soon, and then we'll work on all of the other positions. So I'm really excited about the change and the merger because there is so much overlap with the populations that we serve. We coordinate on a number of initiatives, and just having that kind of closer relationship, I think, is going to be good for us all. So Kelly, anything you want to add about?
No, we are moving rather aggressively. We've got a short timeline, and so far we are hitting our marks. So I think I saw today you finalized a few job descriptions. We've been working with HR, so hopefully, if all goes well, those will be posted soon, and we'll start to flesh that out. Also, to reference I think the new web page is up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It is, and launched. We'll still be, there's always some hitches or links, but you will see a new version of the aging webpage as well as DDRS. It's a little more intuitive as far as the landing pages. Of course, it's an adjustment. People are used to what they were used to. And there are some great videos, and Erin's featured in the.
As is Jenny.
So that went live yesterday. So this is hot off the press. We'll send out some information to folks too, like here's where this, but anyway, it is now live.
Okay.
So it all worked out. And then you see some of the other efforts around you. So really just working to focus on outcomes for the Bureau of Better Aging, really getting back to that multi-sector plan on aging and integrating that with strategic plan. But first and foremost, we have to put the infrastructure in place to be able to support that. So we're moving along. And I'm sure Erin will be happy because there'll be, as you see, there's going to be a choice manager that haven't had for some time, and a home and community-based services director that's there for support. And so anyway, we are excited. So our target is to have those posted and hopefully filled by the end of the year, those leadership positions, and then level setting, and then first of the year filling the other few spots as we let those leaders then, Erin and her leadership, determine how best to utilize positions, because obviously some roles, responsibilities may change a little bit.
Will you send us this with
Yes.
other slides, please?
Yes, I will send all the slides.
Will you autograph it?
My signature with the new BBA logo will be on the email.
I'll settle.
Okay. Okay, wanted to give an update on our work with the implementation of House and Rural Act 1391, Choice 3.0. Go to the next slide, but the link, if anyone wants to go back and read it again, it's there for you. Just to remind everyone, the changes with the new language in code have an increased focus on prevention and reduction of hospitalizations and the need for Medicaid home and community-based services, as well as an increased focus on support services for caregivers and family members of individuals with dementia. And our program funding priorities are focused on identifying individuals who are at risk, you can go to the next slide, of impairment with respect to their ADLs, eligible for the program and not eligible to receive Medicaid. And again, that focus on prevention and reducing hospitalizations and institutionalization. So we have been meeting with our small work group. I think since we last met, we've had 2 additional meetings, and we've been working on finalizing the provider certification process that we talked about earlier. We'll be rolling that out hopefully by the end of the month if we can get everything in place and have a good plan for how we're gonna support the review of the applications.
This is the thing that's with the general counsel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So
You feel good about what you've come up with as far
I
as
do.
streamlining it?
I do.
Really
yes.
maximizing contractor or provider participation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're making it as straightforward and at least from our easy as possible, like here.
Yeah.
So.
Do you all feel good about it?
Yes.
Yes.
We've had, again, with the work group, we've been looking and we've shared all the draft policies, and we're making sure and want to make sure all of the AAA is aware that these are the draft policies with minimum requirements, but these are not we're not dictate, this is what you have to use if people want to have additional requirements or whatever, but these include the minimum requirements based on what's outlined in administrative code. So working on wrapping that up. The next thing that we have really been focused on are just talking about the choice services, and in a couple slides, I'll share some information on where our spending was in state fiscal year 25. But as we're looking at the array of services available and trying to identify what new services we may want to consider introducing to try to really focus on that prevention and reduction in hospitalizations. We had a presentation, I think it was at the last meeting, about the community health workers. That has come up a lot, along with related conversations about better supporting care transitions and hospital discharges to try to really make sure when people are coming home, they have what they need to try to ensure that they can actually stay there. A lot of conversation about falls assessment and prevention and home safety assessments and the idea of the certified aging in place specialists. There's been some conversation too, I didn't list it here, but about caregivers. Our next meeting, I believe, is next week, and we're going to be starting to try and narrow down and talk more about outcomes and what, if we're talking about, okay, let's look at having some kind of falls prevention program throughout the state. What are our outcomes that we're trying to prove, and how is it going to get us towards those goals that we're working towards?
Tell me if I'm getting ahead of you, Erin, but one of the things we talked about was coming up with a way to track the outreach and education interactions. So if the AAA sets up a table at a community event and interacts with 20 people who say, I'm interested in potentially pursuing a home modification, how do we track that, not only from a follow-up standpoint, but then, over time to demonstrate that this approach, this focus on prevention is in fact working. Because it's a little bit of what Jen was saying earlier. You know, I forget how she said it, but it's in the negative, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's really important that over time we document that this focus on prevention is in fact keeping people out of skilled nursing care and other institutional settings, keeping the falls from happening, keeping the medication mix-ups from happening, et cetera.
Yes, that is going to be a primary focus of our conversation about the tracking. And good thing, timing-wise, is we are working on a replacement for our case management system that is going to roll out in February.
That's the CAM system.
The CAM system.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seems like only yesterday the CAM system was
6.5 long years ago.
it's just a twinkle in our eyes.
Yes, and now we're sunsetting CAMs.
We barely knew thee.
But we will.
Has it ever worked?
Hmm?
Has it ever worked?
Initially.
There's- For those online, there's laughter.
It's never
Breaking
been
out
well,
behind
I
me.
came from the provider world, it's never been well loved.
Well, all kidding aside, I mean, I remember these conversations, Erin, you were a part of them, early on with the transition, and CAMS was supposed to be an improvement, and I think it has been an improvement in some significant ways, but I think we've also seen limitations and frustrations that were never supposed to be part of the deal. So as we transition to the next thing, how optimistic are you that we're finally going to get a package that delivers on all the priorities that you and the network have identified?
I am optimistic that we will get there eventually. Because of the super short timeline that we're working on for launching a replacement in February, I do not think everything that is on an ideal dream wish list is going to be in place by then, but I think there is a plan in place to get there.
Do you feel confident in the data migration?
We're having conversations about that, and because we just went through it with the waiver consolidation from CAMS to the portal, there have been a lot of lessons learned, so I think that will serve us well with the non-waiver consolidation, because we've just done it and we know what worked and what didn't work, so and I see some faces behind you.
Well, I think the data migration is critical, and because we could lose a lot of ground and momentum, right, if we don't have a successful data migration or conversion. So is there going to be, a beta test with live data going in, the snapshot of the data that's to be migrated into the beta system before we go live with the
There
actual
was
system?
testing in this migration. I think the problems that occurred weren't that data didn't come over. There were certain fields or certain scenarios that people in all of the planning, you know how that is.
Oh, I know.
How do you make a pot of coffee and someone forgets you gotta go get the cup first or whatever it is. So the data migrated, it was there. But no, I'm serious. It's
No, I
usually
just-
that some,
I know, but I'm not gonna, now I can't get the image out of my head of the coffee pot,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
pouring
yeah.
coffee on the floor.
Yeah, but don't, it's really
yeah.
that kind of thing, so
Oh, it
I
is.
think, but there were some lessons learned about
Sure.
fields and those type of things.
But with that in mind, I mean, at the moment that we go live on the new system, will we make sure that we have all of the old data
Oh, yeah.
captured and stored in a way that the
Yes. Oh,
contractor,
yeah.
well, in a way that the contractor, when we find out that we forgot, maybe not the coffee cup, but we forgot lids.
Yeah.
That, to extend your metaphor.
Yeah.
That the contractor will be responsible for figuring out how to get lids on the cups of coffee
yeah.
that have already been poured. How do you like that for a metaphor?
I like that.
But I mean, because some of the same stuff that happened with the transition to CAMS could happen again.
Yeah.
and it could be really bad.
We
Yeah.
do already have staff working in the BDS portal, which I think is gonna be a huge.
That's gonna,
plus.
that's,
And the staff that we have working in the portal like it better.
oh, it's a
than
much,
Cam's.
it's a much
So,
more, it's a
it's
much more user-friendly.
There's not gonna be such a learning curve and a fear, because we have staff already in there. And so I think it'll go smoother.
And the nice thing with it is because it's a custom build, it's easy for us, to your point, Aaron, in future state, to modify and make changes and move it toward where we want, where the CAMs being that hybrid, kind of canned, but a little bit custom.
Yeah.
We just were, we were so bound, so many, well, you know, you referred to it, Representative
Oh, yeah.
Miller. It's like, well, we can't get that, or we can't do that.
Well, and my impression is that the network is much more engaged in this transition than in the transition to CAMs. Is that fair?
That was, we were thinking it was like 10 years ago, and it seems like it's.
I did think it was that long ago.
It was April Fool's Day, 2019.
I did think it was like, gosh, I thought it was longer ago than that.
Yeah.
And I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not trying to pick on what was done with the last transition. I'm just saying that with this transition, my observation is that I think Erin's doing a good job, just like with the work groups, of engaging you guys. And there's a conversation, an ongoing conversation that hopefully will anticipate and head off some of the things that happened with the CAMS transition. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I love the work groups.
So next we're talking about the data and outcomes, and then we're going to start talking about the funding targets and getting at that prioritization. What does it mean to prioritize someone that doesn't have Medicaid? That doesn't have Medicaid yet? Is it not going to have Medicaid? Is it filling again? You know, there's a whole lot of conversation to be had around that. And related to that will be, waiting list prioritization and spending targets perhaps to have in the grant. So there's a lot that's wrapped into that. We do have a work plan that we're working towards, and we're hoping to be through all the topics by the end of the calendar year. So far we're on track, but we know that related, especially to these topics, they're big, kind of heavy topics. So, but that's our target now. In the interest of time, I will go quickly. Here is our current waiting list. We've seen a little bit of a jump across the state since overall, some haven't so much. I think in part because there was the reduction in funding for the current grant period, so it's not unexpected that they are going up a little bit. I do have on the next slide, and it's choice annual report time. So by October 1st, the board members should have a draft of the report in your inboxes that we'll discuss at the next meeting. But I wanted to share some information. Here's the year-end spend for state fiscal year 25. Looks like we underspent by about $500,000, which is less than 2% of the total allocation. This is a significant decrease than we've seen in past years. We did, as a reminder, reallocate funding about halfway through the year. 9 AAAs received additional funds. 2 AAAs who were underspending gave up funding to allow us to do that. I also have some information as we were talking about home mods and spending on home mods. Here are the top 3 services where the choice dollars went in state fiscal year 25. About 32% went to attendant care, 27% went to case management and options counseling, and about 13% went to home and community assistance, which is that homemaker service. I outlined, these are the kind of spending targets and restrictions in the grant agreement, so that I think plays into how much is spent on case management and options counseling. In the grant agreements, there's a requirement that a minimum of the grant dollars need to be spent on non-access services, which are more of the in-home direct services. The access services are the case management, information and assistance, transportation, outreach. Looking at the spend across the AAAs, the minimum that a AAA spent on those direct services was about 40%. That means 60% of the dollars went to their administration, case management, options counseling, information and assistance. The maximum that was spent on those direct services was 80%. And this is just the choice funding because there's a lot of overlap with the Title III funding and SSBG. Sometimes the mix of services that are spent, one AAA may spend more of their SSBG funding on information and assistance and less of their Title III and whatnot. But as we're thinking about the prioritization with 1391 and how the dollars are being spent, I think looking at this information as part of the process will be important because there is a lot of variability around the network and over half of the funding is going to attendant care, homemaker, and case management. Well over. And is that meeting the goal? Is it not meeting the goal? Part of the conversation. So Rebecca, could you pull up the waiting list things, information? Just as always, wanted to share the information, most recent information. Actually, the website apparently was being updated today, so this is the most recent that we have pulled, but I will send if it's live yet, the more updated information.
Oh, I can give you the.
Do you have that? Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
I know she sent them yesterday. I didn't realize they didn't get posted.
We looked earlier and the website was, I think they probably were posting them.
It might be the link is broken to the old one. You have to go to the new webpage.
Gotcha. So I will update this.
So, I'll send that to you.
Okay, thank you.
So my apologies, but I'll just read this to you. So for September on the health and wellness, there are now 4,578 individuals on that waiting list.
4578.
Yes. For September, we invited 325 individuals. Health and wellness, 65 were transitions from nursing facility, 13 were discharged from hospital, 4 were a transition from choice, and the remaining 243 were invited based off of their level of care assessment date or date of placement on the waiting list. And we have used 33 of 145 slots held in reserve for folks that re-entered from state fiscal year 25. So
how many?
33 of the 145. Go ahead.
Why did the number of invitations drop precipitously?
Because July and August were all that we had available in the churn. We put everything out. So what you are now seeing in health and wellness would be declined. We haven't rescinded July and August because waiting to make sure all the data is good. So the first rescinds you'll see in October.
So the churn you're referring to is the
vacated slots.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of those were released in July and August to front load the system based on input from everyone over the past fiscal year. Now, but as I say that, you noticed I said health and wellness. Pathways, they are firming up some numbers, because in a good way, when we migrated data, they found some discrepancies between systems, and so just trying to verify if we have more slots available than we originally thought. But until we do that, they took a cautious approach. So September on the Pathways, there are now 7,801 individuals on that waiting list. We released 350 invitations, 86 from nursing facilities, 13 discharged from the hospital, 29 transitioned from choice, and 222 invited based on level of care, assessment date or date of application. We have also processed 43 individuals on Pathways for Money Follows the Person, those that were held in reserve. So there were 116 slots held in reserve. 43 of those have now been utilized, so 73 remaining. We had 153 people transition from health and wellness to Pathways. We had 287 individuals that were re-entries from the prior state fiscal year to Pathways. Also, are you going to talk about Money Follows the Person relaunched? Yes. So Money Follows the Person has relaunched. There will be public communication coming out about that. Our partners at our AAAs are the gatekeeper, if you will, the entry point for Money Follows the Person. They've been trained, they're well aware of that because we did update processes. That was as of September 1, and I know that I personally connected 37 individuals that would be Pathways age for Money Follows the Person applications, and we've already processed a handful since the 1st of September.
So how representative do you think the invitation numbers for health and wellness and Pathways for September are going forward? I mean, are we, because now we're just...
I have no idea because we held off on rescinds from July. We're not holding people to the 180-day timeline during this data migration, making sure there's nothing systemically wrong.
So you held off on, when you say you held off on rescinds, you mean you didn't rescind invitations that had
that would have
hit
180 days in July and August.
Okay.
So, and now, so we'll have July, August, September rescinds that will come out in October.
Right, so you're gonna have a little bump.
Should have.
But then it'll return to a more level.
Yeah, but we'll also, I think, have a better handle. And then hopefully a few months in with the new process for the level of care where when people knock on the door, they're assessed first. And then if not eligible, we're not going on a waiting list. We also want to see what that does, because now we have people that come off the waiting list that are found not functionally eligible upon invitation.
Sure.
So those are some wild cards, but the good news, I suppose, is I've been looking at some data internally. It does look like we're seeing a significant uptick really in the since January of 25 and onboarding people onto active waiver. So I'm looking at that across various service levels. So that all seems now to be working as it should. We had some issues with throughput and that lag.
But if these numbers were to hold, I just did the math, then we'd be looking at about a 14-month waiting list on health and wellness and a 22-month waiting list on Pathways.
The wait right now, the folks that were invited off in September on Pathways joined in January. So that's 8 months.
Well, because not everybody accepts the invitation, so it speeds up.
Yeah.
For some people, right?
Yeah, Pathways is held at about 8 months.
Yeah. I'm just saying if you divide 7,801 by 350 invitations, you get a little over 22 months.
Oh, yeah. Only about 40% of people, for whatever reason, that are invited go all the way through. Some people deny it, or decline the invitation immediately.
Understood.
Some are, So, yeah, that's the thing is you have to factor in all the folks won't go through.
Yeah, but 8 or 9 months is still way too long.
Well, that's a factor of funding and availability that I don't
know. It's not your fault.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not, I
But
don't
I
think it
have-
personally.
Well, I know we're out of time, but I've expressed interest at past meetings in, and I think you all are going to look into this, into the feasibility of tracking what happened to people who ultimately don't accept an invitation, people who are on the wait list, but then they don't accept an invitation. I think it's important for us to understand what happened to them, because that should inform the policy discussion in the legislature about funding. If we know that X percentage went into long-term care, for example, because.
Oh, I can tell you that now.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you if they declined it because they went to a nursing facility.
Well, I thought the discussion before was we didn't know what happened with each of the folks who declined.
But there are a lot of people that just say, I don't want it anymore. Now that I can't tell you, that, maybe I'm gonna move in with my daughter but there are people that just decline. But we have like person deceased prior to invitation.
Right.
Person went to facility, I've got that on the through, but if it's just a declination, right, we don't track.
Can you compile the data you have?
Yeah, I can't write them all, but I can pull the most recent report, yeah.
But you see what I'm getting at. I mean, I think it's important to inform policymaking that it's reasonable to say that some percentage, the longer someone is on the waiting list, the more likely they will need something else before a slot becomes available, right?
Theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, if they are in need of waiver services to remain in a home or community-based setting, then as months go by, it's increasingly likely that they will end up in skilled
I mean, I
nursing.
would ultimately then have to track if they're in a nursing facility, they are then eligible for Money Follows the Person after 60 days and would immediately transition to home or community-based services if they are interested in doing that. So that is another pathway,
If they're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one of the challenges with Money Follows the Person has always been that once somebody is in long-term care, it's a lot harder to come out than to go in.
Oh, well, we have a lot of demand for it, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love the program. I'm just saying that it's a whole lot easier to provide home and community-based services to a person while they are still in their home.
Oh,
rather than after they have lost their home and they no longer have a home and now they're in skilled nursing, to get them back into the community, and Money Follows the Person is great, but I mean, there's some percentage of people who don't transition back who might, they might have wanted to transition back, but everything doesn't fall into place. Is that fair?
Yeah, it might be a conversation on how we better prioritize people on a waiting list.
Well, I'm just
because I do think there are people that are in urgent need, and then I do think there are folks that are like families there, but it would be great if we could get someone else to do it,
I think that's a good conversation to have.
So that might be a point, and I apologize because I have someone waiting on me for another meeting, so I don't want to be rude.
My point is simply that the 2027 budget session is not that far away.
Oh, yeah.
If there's going to be a discussion about funding to support additional slots to reduce the waiting lists, I know, there are those who aren't happy with the Pathways program, period, since we transitioned to a new administration, and I don't know what kinds of conversations are going on, but from a legislative standpoint, I think we need to be able to have an informed discussion about how many of our constituents, can't be served in a timely manner because of the limited number of slots. That's all I'm getting at.
Point well taken.
Thank you.
I apologize. It was good to see you. I'm so sorry. I feel so weird, but I have to run to the next thing.
Thank you.
Yes, we have run over, so Hannah, if you want to. Sure.
Okay, so, brief update, Yellow Dot Law, we have conducted 9 meetings across the state. The rest of the AAAs are scheduled for the end of this month, beginning of October, to finish out those meetings. We've been working with AARP and FSSA on hopefully getting those packets to all AAAs and BMVs by the end of the year. And AARP has been very generous and is willing to sponsor the first round of packets to be distributed. We are also working on an FAQ and info to disseminate to the first responder groups, as well as working on a media campaign to just educate the state about this new program. We were able to be a part of some ceremonial bill signings, including the Yellow Dot Law and the Medigap Law. Golden Hoosier Awards, Lifespan Resources, Area 5, and Livestream Services were able to be a part of that ceremony. And we all recognize that Dr. Burke is amazing and look forward to celebrating her at our next choice meeting. Federally, the budget ends September 30th. And so right now they are in conversations around a continuing resolution, which we hope to see tomorrow. And hopefully that gets passed to continue funding the federal government through mid-November. Right now, things seem to be pretty decently level set with Older Americans Act and ACL programs being funded in the budget. And then the Older Americans Act reauthorization did pass the Senate in June. So we are currently seeing the process of how that goes through the House, and we'll hopefully get a reauthorization here shortly, but we all know how federal government works. It's a little slower than state government. And that's it.
So how did the Yellow Dot meetings go?
They're going really well. We have had some feedback from first responders. So there could possibly be some cleanup next session, but so far it's been very well received.
Any further conversations with the BMV?
Yes, so we are working on updating them of everything that we have received from first responders and their feedback. So we're compiling all of that with AARP to then present to them. We've already kind of planted the seed with Representative Pressel, since he usually carries BMV legislation.
So there may be an opportunity to involve the BMV beyond what they were originally willing to entertain?
Yes, but that also could possibly be, as you said,
Budget session.
the budget
issue.
session, yes.
That's never too early. Yeah. But I mean, that's good that that conversation is occurring, because I think for this to be as successful as it has the potential to be, it ultimately is going to have to involve the BMV at a higher level.
Yep.
It sounds like that's come out in some of your conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But first responders have been positive.
Very positive, yes.
Good. And it's been a good opportunity for the AAAs to
Yes. It's good.
start community conversations.
Networking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Maggie?
Yes, what a lot of great information. Oh my goodness, I could hardly keep up. Awesome, awesome information. Okay, anything else?
I'll mention one thing or ask Aaron one thing.
Please.
The guy who is doing, overseeing appointments for the governor, John Hoffer, have you had any communication with him? Well, I figured out who it is.
Okay.
It's John Hoffer.
Yeah.
So, and I had a conversation with him, needless to say, you know, with the transition to a new administration and the literally thousands of appointments for which the governor is responsible, which means for which John is responsible. He's got his plate has been full.
I imagine.
But I had a conversation with him
Okay.
about choice, and I'd like for you and I to talk with him, because he's very interested in getting moving on getting this situation corrected so we can get, because I told him this is an easy one because the various positions are very tightly prescribed in statute as to the nature of the appointee, where they're coming from.
There's applications pending, I mean.
Well, I told him, I said, we've got several people who literally, if we can just get them through the vetting process and formally appointed, so I would love for you and I, pardon?
We could have a quorum.
Well, and we need to, because we haven't approved minutes, and among other things, we can't have elections, so anyway, I'll reach out to you.
Okay.
And you and I can.
Okay, thank you.
Communicate with him, maybe loop Hannah into that. But I would love for us, our next meeting is November, right?
No.
October.
November.
November. That's right, this is September, yeah. So I mean, I would love for us to have a quorum for the November meeting. That'd be
November 20th.
November 20th.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, so I'll reach out to you if that's okay, Erin, and we can.
Yes, thank you.
Have a conversation.
Okay.
With John. And former Attorney General Steve Carter is involved in that as well. So I talked with him also.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of people we can work with. I was happy to see the former Attorney General in a role in this administration. So he has responsibility in that area. So between him and John, I think we can get this done.
Okay, that'd be great.
That's all I had, Megan.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, should we motion to close?
Yes.
Technically, we never opened.
That's true.
You can make it.
Thank you.
Thank